say go. Well, I don't know how it happened, but we are 1/3 of the way to completion of this crazy documentary. And the scope is, the goal is to show the world that natives still exist on this continent, planet, Mother Earth, and we still make a contribution. And you better not look around, because we're everywhere, and we're probably 60% of the people here were part of you somewhere in the past, whether you want to admit it or not. So, at every milestone in this documentary, I have tried to give you a little look into myself, as I realize I'm getting a lot closer to the grave than the cradle. So, I hope you enjoy. I don't ask you to agree. This is just the way I see my life. Now, many people either criticize me or just look at me and shake their head. I travel for a living. I've traveled as much as I could all of my life, everywhere, US, Canada, Mexico. I'll never go to Mexico again. But anyway, wonderful place, but let's not get into that. And they say, you know, you're obsessed or something. Something's not right. You've fallen as a child and hit your head, or your medication's wrong or something. And I just thought I'd give you a little insight at this 1/3 of the way through the documentary mile marker of me. Brace yourself. Hope you're seated. Hope you're on your medication. Please keep your hands and legs inside the ride at all times till it comes to a complete stop. Here we go. So, coming from the St. Regis Indian Reservation, I'm Iroquois Mohawk, Iroquois Nation, Mohawk tribe. That's the 6 nations of the Iroquois. I'm Mohawk, so we're keeper of the Eastern Gate, keeper of the Flint. And we live in the Adirondack Mountains, traveled 1,000 years ago, primarily from about northern Virginia all the way up to the Hudson Bay in that mountain range, but also keeping Iroquois Confederacy safe from the eastern tribes or the ocean tribes. Nothing against them, that's just the way it was. Now, from this reservation, we weren't well liked near the reservation, only on the reservation. But also on the reservation, you have to understand that my dad was pure English, and my heritage is some French and some Indian. So really growing up, I was quite confused. I didn't know whether to steal your land, just surrender right away, or just scalp you and burn you at the stake. Now, as a child, and this is the story I got, we were taken in and given the polio vaccine, salt vaccine, and I was 9 months old. So it was about 51, it had to be near 1951. But 3 of us in our family were given the wrong vaccine, and there was no quality control in the salt vaccine, because it's like the scare of the Zika virus or bird flu. People were terrified. So that we were given polio, and at 9 months old, I, my only brother, and my third older sister, I have 9 sisters, and 1 brother that turned out to be a sister, we were given polio. And the doctor said we had about 40 hours to live. Nothing he could do, just keep us comfortable. We were running temperatures of 104 to 106, and they put us in one bedroom together and just laid wet sheets over us. And when we got out of control, they dipped us in warm water to keep us from either boiling over, or cold water would give you a shock, it'd kill you. So somehow the 3 of us survived. My older sister, Sue Ann, had it the worst, and she spent time in the iron lung. My brother, I think I came out of the fevers first, is what I hear, and my brother next, and my sister, it took days, almost a week, to survive. But we all survived. I mean, I don't know how. Must have been a reason. Anyway, at about the age of 7, I caught one of the sister diseases to polio. So if you have polio, you're going to usually get one of the other diseases because you're very susceptible to them. I happen to contract, and I have no idea how, leg perthes, which is a bone marrow disease which draws the calcium out of your bone. And it also makes your marrow ignorant to its job. So I'm walking to school one day, and it's the story I got. I barely remember this. Anyway, it's about a foot of new snow, and we're a mile away from school, but that's the way it was. We're walking to school, and all of a sudden, my left hip gives out, and down I go, into the snow. Well, I can't tell you I was a troublemaker, but if I told you I wasn't, I'd be lying. So yeah, I was a bit of a wild child. My brother, who I never really got along with too well, kicks me in the head and says, "Come on, stupid, we're going to be late for school already." I says, "Man, something's wrong, I can't walk." So my sister Jeffra sits me up and straightens my legs up to walk, but finds out one of them is like 4.5 inches shorter than the other. Now, as I remember it, we both looked and said, something's not right. She grabbed my pant leg and dragged me home, about 5 houses back home. They took me to the hospital. The doctor said, "We have no idea what's going on. We're going to send you to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York." Ithaca had it's called Ithaca Reconstruction Home. It's a death camp for children, and you were put in there if you were in New England anywhere and had a disease they did not understand. They didn't know how you got it. They didn't know how to treat it. They didn't know if there was a cure for it. You were put in there in conjunction with Cornell University Hospital with great doctors, geniuses in medicine, and they were, more than welcome to do Frankenstein operations on you if they could prove that it would benefit your case. And they had to prove that before they could touch you. But once they did, of course, there was no charge because, as I understand, I was fostered out to New York State because of the intense medical bills that were going to be acquired at this time. And they didn't understand that there was 6 of us in there. Elaine Barber, and I shouldn't mention any names. Anyway, there were 6 of us in there, and not understanding the disease, they figured that dislocation was the best treatment. So they'd strap me down in bed, put a strap under my armpits, and then put weight over the end of the bed and dislocated me from the nipples down, which is just like being on the rack in medieval days. And after about 6 weeks, maybe, your body just stops struggling. They put 14 pounds over the end of my bed. And so they reduced it to 7. And then they left me there in that bed for 2.5 years. I guess it should sound terrifying to anybody, any normal person, but it was some of the best times in my life. I mean, I introverted, and these imaginary friends came to visit me, and we traveled the world, got in trouble, got out of trouble, and they were always a great excuse as to why whatever I did happened. We had a great time. But the thing it gave me was, in the 10-bed ward I was in, there was usually 1 and sometimes 2 people per month that died in your room from whatever. Usually, and not all the time from what they came in with, is what you caught from everybody else, because we had chicken breast, water on the brain, brittle bones, leukemia, cancer, you name it. It just, whatever came in, there was, whatever was going around. We had polio victims come in. When a lot of times you had to be careful because you would catch whatever they had. We didn't have a lot of mental cases, thank heavens. At least not in that hospital. I ran into them later. But it gave me a different outlook on death and pain. And I find out that both death and pain, although, and I don't care how the rest of the world thinks about it, in my opinion, they're both blessings and they're gifts. Because when you consider what some of the other children in the hospital, in this ward that I was in, were going through, or were the hand that they were dealt, death was a gift. And death was something. I'm gonna get stupid here. Death was something you prayed for. And even to the point of begging for. You weren't. Excuse me. Enjoy the pretty scenery for a sec. I'm back. Suicide wasn't even an option, although I'm Native American, and suicide is sort of one of the cards you're dealt with as a Native American. So I struggled with it badly, but it's still, in the ward I was in, was not an option because it was a coward's way out. So, sure, I thought about it a lot, but I didn't want to go out and have them think I was, have the other patients, didn't give a damn about anybody else, but I didn't want the other patients to think I was a chicken. And that's the only reason that it didn't happen for me. But pain is a gift. Pain tells you that you're still alive. If you have no pain, well, that's also a gift. You're dead. There's always some time in your life going to be pain. I don't know. I have never met anybody that's never experienced pain. So in our world, excuse me, in our world, pain was the litmus test to your being alive. If you had pain, you were alive. And the more you felt it, the more alive you were. And as your body parts lost feeling and you had no pain from it, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. So if you had feeling in your extremities that gave you pain, you were darn lucky. Because a lot of these kids came in and had feeling just to their neck or just to their upper lip and no other feeling. And pain, they'd have given the world for pain anywhere in their body so that they knew it was still alive. Death, when you're born with brittle bones and you know your likelihood of survival is about 6 months and you're 3 years old, death can be a blessing. I'm gonna temporarily close at this because YouTube likes stuff in smaller clips. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Film at 11.